It's about 10 minutes past 8 o'clock on 99 FM. And I know on a day-to-day, or Tuesdays and Thursdays especially, you are used to getting your Royal Hustler right on time at 7:30. But for this one, we had to make an exception. And it is what a way for us to bang out the year with our Royal Hustle. Today, we are joined by a man who hardly needs any introduction this age and day and time in the land of the brave. Hailing from the village of Omalaala in the Oshana region, he has become the poster child for the Namibian dream. He is a fierce, straight-talking activist, an astute academic and politician, with his journey to the mayoral chair starting out with the iconic plot grab in 2014. He became the first person to occupy Windhoek's mayoral position from an opposition political formation since independence. Yes, you are guessing right. We are joined this morning on 99 FM's Royal Hustle by Dr. Job Shipululo Amupanda. Thank you so much for joining us and welcome to the show.
Thank you, Chair. Greetings to you and the listeners and everybody.
You've been here before. Yeah.
Interesting studios.
Yeah, welcome back, actually. Yeah. Let's start at the beginning. For our Royal Hustle, it's always about getting to know the inner of the person and the words. Tell us about your childhood, growing up as a kid, and what kind of childhood you had.
I didn't have a unique childhood per se. I don't have some sort of fascinating story to tell. My story is the same as many other young people that are growing up in the villages, and with the poverty dynamics, and this is what people don't get to understand, is that you see poor people and then you feel sorry for them, but sometimes poor people don't feel sorry for themselves, because I think growing up in the village, you lived with what you see and what you know, and you are content basically with what you have there, and it's only visitors and people that come from outside, oh sorry, and things like that. Sometimes when I came to the city, for instance, and then we would go out and people saying, what is your favorite food, what is your favorite drink, and those things were foreign because we ate what was available to be eaten. There was no luxury of choice. Of course, the nature of the village allowed, there are some fruit trees all over the villages that you could, at various seasons, there's a lot of food that you can go and get. And that's where you can maybe exercise choice, in terms of what is it. But as far as the household is concerned, we ate whatever was available. So my childhood was not that different. It was the same childhood of the young people who are in the village. But what the village does to you, it makes you stronger. It makes you more determined. It makes you, of course, with the passage of time, when you start being aware of what exists out there and the lacks thereof, you start being determined, being able to change your immediate circumstances. That is why, for instance, when you grow up, my mother, my aunt, or even my grandmother, she used to sell merchandises. I used to sell for her, and there was always the thing that when a person comes back, they would always come back with goods. So that type of culture, being able to go out and make things happen, it became integral part of not only who I am, but also who we are as not only as a household, but generally as young people there, because there was a serious, for example, of course things are changing then, but if somebody comes from the urban centers and they just came, we expect you to have a lot of bags, and a lot of things and things like that. For example, people would come to Windhoek and they would come with dry bread, like bread. They just dry it there, and then they come with it. So you must come with a lot of possession. So we're always orientated about going out and making things happen. You must go out there and probably hustle in the current words and things like that. But of course, things do change. A person can come now they no longer have a lot of bags, but they have probably an ATM card that is having a lot of money. The following day they can go to a nearby town and buy whatever they have to buy. So that's really my orientation, and it teaches you also about quite a number of principles that I still live by and abide by today. And those are the principles of identity, those are principles of determination, those are principles of no surrender. And it also growing up in that environment, also you are determined about getting what you want to get, setting your goals and objectives, because your circumstances forces you to go and hustle. So it doesn't matter what anybody else says. You remain focused on the ball, and that is why some people ask, how are you able to cope with all these clowns who have a lot to say about you? And because we are very focused on the ultimate goal. It's like a lion doesn't lose its sleep because the springbok has an opinions about it.
Talking about being out there as a young child and being oriented in this type of way to be able to survive and come back home with something, what kind of dreams did you have, though? That goal that you talk about, what was that vision as a young boy in Omalaala that you had growing
the
up?
vision and dreams and aspiration and objectives and all those things were always around principles, and it doesn't matter what you end up doing, but the principle is always that, okay, I need to be able to somehow be a liberator of my people. I need to be a even in a smaller scale. People speak about liberation only when they're talking about the country.
Yeah.
But liberation could also mean being able to uplift your homestead, uplift your community, uplift whoever it is that is closer to you from whatever wants, from whatever challenges, from whatever bondage. So the goals and dreams and aspirations has always been at the level of principle. So you need to go out there in the world, take the vision of a changed society, take a vision of a changed community, take a vision of a changed household. So anything else that I would do would be to change those principles. That's why I always had objectives to meet. Every year there must be. I'm able to. Of course, sometimes things don't always end up the way you want them to be. But I can't imagine a situation where. I can't imagine a situation where I don't have an objective to meet.
Like there's no goal at the end of it. Yeah,
it's a bit. In fact,
it's part of you.
Yeah. So after my son was born, we in setting my objectives, because sometimes it was proving to be very difficult to achieve certain objectives. So I needed to make myself, because sometimes I feel that I'm relaxed a lot. So what I do is that after achieving major objectives, that's when I cut my hair. So if I don't achieve my objectives, I don't cut my hair. My son doesn't cut I don't cut my son's hair. So once I achieve, then we go for a haircut. So like that, it also gets to some sort of spiritual space where you set your goals and objectives and things like that.
Clear the cloud, cut the hair. Yeah. Tell us about school and education, which is obviously very important to you. Your primary and high school years and some of the fondest memories that you recall from your time at school.
It's what? That is 12 years of high school. Is it 12 or 13? 12 years of high school, 4 years of first degree, 2 years of postgraduate, 3 years of postgraduate, and 4 years of PhD. So I think, the Omalaala Primary School is a tiny school in our village. So it wasn't really different because it's part of the same community. My mother went to the same school, and it's been quite there for a while. It has produced a lot of people. It's also a school that we haven't done much as former learners. Maybe something that we have to do that. So I look at my primary school as just part of that village life and that community, because we were integrated into that life. And I went to Ipumbu Secondary School from grade 8 to grade 12. I had to leave the village to go for secondary school there, and it was it was quite fascinating, and it there's a lot of things that happens there. I still think about it, like, how did this thing happen? And that has been my life, because after sometimes I have to reflect. I know what I'm doing, but I come at a certain point where I think, but how did that happen? For instance, in 2001, that was the first time when they introduced grade 8. It was just grade 11 and 12. And we were the first one to establish that grade. And then 2 months later, after we enrolled, there was posters and announcements that were made at the assembly that there's going to be election for the Student Learners Representative Council. And well, I think the principals and everybody else just assumed, because remember, this is the first, grade 8 is the first time. So in the school, in 2001, there was grade 8, grade 11, and grade 12, because we were then continuing with grade 9 and others would continue until we close that gap. So, but I think in the school management and their orientation, they didn't understand that the grade 8 are actually part of the school now.
Certain, because there's no grade 9 and grade 10, so they fill that gap, basically.
Yeah. Not only that, but I mean, sometimes you forget that they are, people in
this
grade...
new...
that new crop have the same rights as everybody else. So they just made that announcement and people were submitting their names, and I submitted my name. I was only 2 months old in the school, and they were sitting with a dilemma whether they must allow, or the truth is that I didn't know about the school much, but I was very much clear about how we were being treated in the school, but as a crop of those ones. So we participated in the election, and they asked us to come in front and talk. I could say a few words. My English was, but I could say, I think people were more inspired by the courage and determination, because they were all grade 12, grade 11 and 12 were participating, and I was the only one from grade 8. And the results came, I got voted. Apparently I got the highest votes, I discovered later, but the teachers decided, no, but you can't have this guy as a head boy.
This grade 8 guy who just came
as a
now,
head boy. So they made me a deputy head boy. So those are one of my memories that I have of that high school.
Courage and determination, which you've obviously carried along with you throughout your life. Tell us about how your idea of success has changed over the course of your life.
Why should ideas of success change? And I think we must turn the question around. I think success has to do with a particular orientation. Success must be inspired by the local context and the circumstances. So how do we say we are succeeding in studio? It's because we have objectives to meet. Success cannot be some sort of independent variable. It's something that you work towards, so set the goals and things like that. So for me, success doesn't change per se, because there are always objectives to be met. The society must always progress, and if you are in leadership, you must be able to move people from point A to point B, where point B is a better place. So success doesn't change much. The scale changes in a sense that at one point I had objectives because even when I was at university in my first, second year, third year, every time I go to the village and I have assignments to do, I must move from bulbs to a candle or to a lamp, for instance, petrol. So at that point, I always had a dream that we need to be able to bring electricity at home. And when I was in Stellenbosch, I was saving up for electricity for our homestead. And once the lights were finally in our homestead in the village, that was success. But the scale is different, because the scale was at the homestead. The scale that we wanted to do as far as the village is concerned is different from the scale of success in the homestead. It's different from the scale of success for the poor, for the scale of success for Namibia, for the country, for the youth. It keeps changing. The scale changes, but success doesn't change.
Still remains as an objective, as a goal to reach constantly. Tell us about your biggest vision for your tenure as Windhoek mayor, being the first person to occupy Windhoek's mayoral position from opposition.
I don't understand where this notion is coming from, and it's not only you, it's many people out there. In the city of Windhoek, the opposition is SWAPO. SWAPO is the opposition. We are the ruling collective. We're calling ourselves progressive forces.
So we should rephrase that and say from the progressive forces.
Yes, because SWAPO is the opposition. I always hear people saying the opposition is governing Windhoek. But what is the opposition? Is the those that are in the minority? Anyway. There are two things that are quite very important for me, and to some people they expect you to bring a huge truck full of bread, but my ultimate objective is I want to be able to inspire young men and women so that they have knowledge and confidence of self. And so it's a delicate balance that I'm trying to make between the spiritual resources and the spiritual objectives that are very important to me. For example, a young man who's in their household must be inspired that they can wake up and chase after their dreams. A young man or a young lady who's in the informal settlement must one day believe that she will one day be able to walk in the street safely, but that has nothing to do with the material forces. It has to do with a lot of spiritual resources that our people need. Our people are so depressed, our people are demoralized, our people are discouraged. It's not always about the material benefits. And of course, then we have, on the other hand, housing, opportunities for young people, being able to bring about needed and formidable change in our society at the policy level. So I'm trying, those two things are quite very important in terms of the material benefits of our people and the real transformation in the socio-economic architecture, but also the spiritual space. I will be very happy. Yes, a person can get a house, but what if that person is just depressed and they commit suicide in that household because they don't have opportunities, or because, if a person is so depressed and stressed, if I can build a park in academia or in Havana or wherever, and as a young person who wanted to commit suicide gets out of that household and then just walk around, go to a park and meets a girlfriend in a park, and then they no longer go and commit suicide, I'll be very happy. Because you would have made a significant contribution. We have a long way to go, because people don't understand that in order for you to get the whole, the unit must exist. So it is smaller matters that brings. A house is not built just like that. Yeah, it's one brick, that you put up there. So you need to get the smaller things right. Yeah. When you get the smaller, and people, of course, they are hopeful and they think you can do everything at once. They don't understand the dynamics that is happening, for example, at the city, that you are not 100% in control. Because if we're 100% in control, we would have already by now changed a lot of things.
Script,
So those two things are quite very important to me, and they must work hand in hand.
Creating that space for a human spirit to thrive. Yeah. So much faith has been put into you, has been like so much expectations. How can Namibians keep you accountable? They are going to ask the questions that you will be forced with or faced with them for the promises that you've made even in the past.
We get voted by 8,000 people. There are 150,000 people who were registered voters. Of that number, SWAPO got 20,000, IPC got 14,000, and AR came third with 8,000. So it is not necessarily about who voted for you, because Windhoek has about 400,000 people, and of those it's only 150,000 that are registered, and out of those 150,000 only 60,000 turned up to actually vote, and out of that number is 8,000. So when you cascade it down, so it becomes very, very, very you have to have a broader look at in terms of what is expected. And I know that even the people that didn't vote for us, they expect a lot of
that.
Yes, that to happen from it. And then we understand and accept that state of affairs. But let me be very clear about certain things. There are certain things that are never going to change. There are some people who think that because you are mayor now, you're no longer going to tweet about things, and I think it's never going to happen. Like you find a person who's saying, no, focus on what? I'm wondering, who are you to tell me what I must focus on my personal page? I'm not going to be mayor forever, but I'm a human being.
Right
so
now.
So I'm very, 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 very clear in terms of being changed, because some people who want you to change for them, they are not doing it genuinely. They want you to change for them, and then they weakens your ability to do a lot of things.
To their advantage.
There are many young people here in this country who are in Sandi, who are in Karasburg, who are in Oranjemund and many other places where I'm not mayor, but they want me to give them direction. So I would continue articulating myself on housing, on unemployment, on many other things. And I'm not a spokesperson of the City of Windhoek. I'm not an employee of the City of Windhoek. I'm a political leader of the City of Windhoek for this particular term. So that is a specific aspect. We must get that absolutely clear. Accountability, I think they will council meetings that I chair are public. So they would be able to see that, and we've given clear instruction that every council meeting must be live streamed on social media. I've expressed my unhappiness with the City of Windhoek communication team, because we need to have information going out there to our people, because usually information doesn't go out to our people, and I'm not very happy about it, because young people don't wait for a newspaper the following day. Young people want to see the information. It's not only young people, but many residents of the city.
As accessible as possible and as quickly as possible.
Yeah, so they don't have to do a lot of things. So I think our commitment to transparency, our commitment to openness, our commitment to democratic space, and our commitment to hide nothing from the masses, claim no easy victories, as Amika Cabral told us, would definitely assist them in terms of holding us accountable. Mm-hmm. So we're not concerned about accountability, and we know and we are confident that every step of the way we are moving with our people, and they will be able to they know absolutely how to get hold of us. They will be inboxing us and all many things.
Yeah, it's still the same door, still open.
Yeah, but I just want to make it absolutely clear. Don't get it twisted that since Job is mayor now, there's going to be a protest. I'm not going to be there. You're going to see a mayor protesting. If we have to protest to the president or a minister, I'm going to protest. In fact, I dare say, if the masses of the Namibian people are going to be protesting in Okahanja or in Karibib because the municipality is not functioning and they want me to join them, I will join them. Mm-hmm. So I just want to make it absolutely clear. Mm-hmm. Job is not going to change. Mm-hmm. I'm still an activist of the affirmative repositioning movement. I'm still an activist for social justice. I believe in equality of opportunities, inequality of dreams and aspiration. I still believe that we need to achieve economic freedom. I still believe capitalism and neoliberalism are very bad economic models that are being implemented in our country. So I'll continue to fight against those things. Mm-hmm. But of course, I remain also committed to the progressive forces and the collective that want to bring about change in the City of Windhoek.
Mm-hmm. The activist is still very much alive.
Absolutely.
In the doctor, my friends. Southwest, to wrap things up, what are the top 3 things that you love about Namibia right now? The top 3 things that you really appreciate? Is there something? Is there?
Absolutely, there are a lot of things that I love about Namibia.
Yeah.
What I love about Namibia is also that, but Namibia by disposition is unity in diversity. Historically, the units, there has been Damara Kingdom, Ambo Kingdom, but we have this construct called Namibia, which is a combination of that unity in diversity. It doesn't always work sometimes, but the fact that we coexist in terms of that conceptualization is quite very fascinating, quite very good. And what I also love about Namibia is that although there are problems, there is potential. You know, you go to some countries where things are really bad. Doesn't matter. You go to West Africa, for instance. Doesn't matter who becomes president. The level of corruption, the level of the military arrogance, the level of crime. It doesn't matter. Things won't. So the prospect of change in Namibia is always there. It's always consistent. SWAPO can lose a City of Windhoek. SWAPO can lose Vavesby and Swakopmund, and those types and level of opportunity. You know, for instance, there was a time where NBC used to be very dominant, and now you have new radio stations that are coming up. So the prospect of change in our country and breaking the monopoly and all those things, the prospect of change are always there. So that's why it makes Namibia so beautiful, because a person who's under oppression, a person who is not getting the necessary opportunities, does not have to give up, because Namibia always presents that prospect of opportunities. And of course, what I also love about Namibia, particularly in the post-colonial context, is the fluidity of generations. when you study Namibia historically, there's always a generational identity. There will be a generation that will stand up and fight for freedom, and there will be a generation, as a generation, it's something that is just happening. When people say "ons is moeg," my Afrikaans is
together.
Yeah. So then people are there. You would always, you get in some countries, and you see that this one is corrupt, this one is corrupt, this one is what. There is no unity of purpose as far as generation. So there's always, you can see generational identity, and then it becomes very predictable in terms of, you sit there and say, so this is what these guys want.
Yeah.
For example, even across race, even white kids, they are actually realizing, because they are in those flats with black kids, they're actually realizing that rent and property dynamics are very problematic. So they are suffering just the same way they are suffering, because they are renting, and the landlord doesn't, of course there's racial prejudice, whites have it easier, but when the landlord wants their money, it doesn't matter whether you are Van Wyk.
Yes.
If you don't pay your money, your landlord will find a way to evict you. So that generational identity becomes very predictable in terms of forging a common identity. So I'm very excited generally, particularly with our generation that wants to achieve economic freedom. A generation that says that it's not just about the past. We don't live in the past. We make decisions on the basis of the evidence that are available today. So they give me confidence, they give me courage and determination. Of course, at times they are very disappointing. They don't turn up and vote. We'll be running things smoothly had they stood up to go and vote. But maybe it's also better when we're working with other people, we get to learn how, and in that classic case of unity in diversity, finding a common identity, finding a common way of solving some of those problems.
And coming together. Yeah. Job, thank you very much for joining us this morning and sharing with us your ideas and your concepts and where it is that you want to take us as Namibians, and giving us the chance to choose. Are you with us or are you against us or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But we look forward to the changes that are about to come under this youthful leadership and under this fire that you have brought along, with that courage and determination that you had with that election in grade 8 until now. Thank you so much for joining us today and sharing with us.
Yeah, thank you very much. Please keep the conversation going.